It's the 24th of August, 2021. Welcome, everyone. I'm Dana Durnford, the nuclear proctologist.org. And what we do is we go deep into the nuclear industry, in the dark places, nice places, where no one likes to go. We find out if they're telling the truth. And the reality of it is they never tell you the truth. You can call in or call me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 709-589-4406, 709-589-4406. I do not hide away from anybody. I have nothing to hide, so I don't hide away, unlike my detractors, who all hide away for some reason. Hope everybody's doing good. This is the last show for a week or so. I'm heading out on a research expedition. I hope everybody's doing good. I'm going to show you some footage from previous expeditions all over Canada tonight, and at the end of it, we'll show you some headlines just to get you, wrap your mind around these research expeditions. What we're seeing is an extinction event from Japan's radioactive fallout. In order to verify that, we have to go out and do species counts, and we keep our fingers crossed and hope everything is okay. Unfortunately, it's not. I'll start you off on the west coast of Vancouver Island in British Columbia. You can see the GPS right there. And there is a whale. He's making a lot of noise. I'll let you listen to it. So that was 2014. West Coast gray whale population plummeted by thousands since 2016. In fact, 6,000 whales are presumed to have died of just gray whales. We're seeing the same thing for the humpback whales and mink whales. Killer whales are all showing up emaciated. Every species of whales is actually showing up emaciated. This is 2018. This is just, I'm heading to Alaska. That's Calvert Island. The bottom of it, we're inside, no ground swells now, or they're calming down. We got the big sail up. We being me. Then we got the mainsail up. I have to straighten up this one because it's taking some of the wind from the big one. Woo! So we're in behind Calvert Island. Got some shelter. We got the big sail up. The spinnaker. She's ballooned right out. That's my second attempt to put it up this morning. It's been up about half an hour, I guess, or something. And we're staying in close to land so the wind doesn't take too much control. But we're still only making 5 miles per hour. And we get these gusts like you're seeing now. There we go. Now we're flying. Ooh, Safety Cove. It's right here, Safety Cove. And we're heading to Shearwater, about 55 miles. And we're making 2.7 miles per hour, wing on wing. There's a few little wind blows coming behind us, but this is probably the best we can hope for unless we start the engine up. And what's the point of having a sailboat if you keep starting the engine, I suppose? You can probably hear it. It's been raining since, well, hard since about 7 a.m. Now, I got up to Shearwater and the next day, and it blew probably 80 kilometers an hour, 90 kilometers an hour. I was on anchor, and I was like, it feels like I'm dragging anchor. That's Shearwater there. It's a little tiny community in the central coast of Canada on the way to Alaska. Now, tomorrow I'm leaving on this expedition. This is from last month. And so what we do, we go out, we count insects and on the interior. So we don't just do the ocean, we do interior also. And you see the little bird sitting there on my generator? That's a gray robin. You gonna come up and get this? You want that? Come get some. Come on. Wow. So that's out in the middle of nowhere. And I wasn't expecting him to feed out of my hand. I had done it earlier, and I was holding the food up. I wanted to get him closer. And he actually come up and took it out of my hand, which caught me off guard. I'd done it again, and I had a better video of it this time. Let me see. What day is this? Thursday. The 7th, 8th, or 9th or something. I guess it's the 8th, is it? Thursday. It's almost dark and we got the site set up. A long day today, a long travel today. And quite the mess. I thought I fixed a hole in my air mattress, but I think it's just where the temperature is dropping, hopefully. Got a couple of birds right here. There's 2 of them. I got some bird feed there. I'm going to come out and sprinkle it around, see if I can get them out to get some shots of them. That'd be the first time in years we actually had a bird visit our site. Yeah, the sailboat was 30-foot Colette. I think that's what you were asking, was it? Excuse me. And the Zodiac is 22 feet that I'm towing behind it. So this is last month. And we're not finding no spiders. See it. There's no ants. Little thin single strand spider web in right there. This is a prime spot. And that's it for July the 9th. It's a perfect spot. There's insects here, but there's no spider webs. Not a lot of insects, but they're here. Mostly little mosquitoes. Now, the only spider webs that we were finding were on rocks. I didn't actually find the spiders, though. But the reason that we're not finding spider webs in the forest is because the forest sucks up the radiation from Japan and all the other radiation over 75 years. But specifically Japan, there was so much of it. I'll show you that at the end of the show. You know, I got lots of videos on it. Tonight we're just because I've been packing all day, and it's a lot of stress when you're packing to go out on these expeditions, because you're wandering, you're meandering around in Mother Nature, and then this is a train track. It goes right across the province. It's about 900 kilometers, and it doesn't all look like that by no means. The majority of it's like horrific. And this part here was groomed. They groom it in the wintertime for skidoos. And there's some cabins back behind me from where that shot is taken. And it was recently groomed in the spring for the cabins. When you get about 10 kilometers up the road, it's all potholes and ditches and washouts and stuff like that. And then you have side paths, beaten down old side paths where you can get right up into Mother Nature. So I meander along till I find a good spot to do research for a couple of days, and then I'll set up shop and spend a few days. Now I'm doing species counts as I'm moving along. I'm really only traveling typically around 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers an hour. And so anything that's moving, or any lakes and stuff like that, you're going to stop and investigate the lakes. Now, last year we didn't find any birds in the lakes, 400 lakes, no fish were jumping. This year we actually found 2 female birds, ducks, in the lakes, and which was amazing. And they had little chicklets, and they stood out like a sore thumb. So when you see these pictures of these lakes, one thing you'll notice when you're there, of course, is there's no fish jumping whatsoever. So imagine going to hundreds and hundreds of lakes and not finding any fish jumping or any birds feeding. It's truly actually bizarre. And so last year we checked 400 ponds. This year was a couple of hundred. Now we're going to head out tomorrow or the next day. It looks like rain tomorrow. I still got a lot of work to do before I head out anyway. And maybe tomorrow evening I'll leave, or the next morning I'll head back out on trail. This is 2015. This is halfway to Alaska. Me and Terry and Zoe, my puppy, at the time, she was 15 years old when she passed away a few years ago when we were out counting birds. And so we're set up by Bella Bella. And we're on what we do is each day we head out for 2 weeks to the open ocean, coastline itself. And we look for pinch points where all the islands are too. There's 27,000 islands up here. Now that's actually a floodplain. That'll flood at a big moon, right up to the tent. Excuse me. And so the little Zodiac is anchored off close to us. And the big Zodiac you can see in the left, it's quite far away from you. We got some videos of this coming up here in a minute. Hopefully. And so that's Terry is on the beach there. And he's getting close-up pictures of anything you can find. Now, there's supposed to be, and you'll see this later on, 7,500 species there. I'll actually show them to you coming up. I did pack the underwater drone for this time, yeah. Conrad is asking me, did I take the underwater drone for this trip? I definitely am. We had problems with it last trip. We had problems with everything last trip. And Terry's much more healthier than I am. And me and Zoe's about the same. We're not very healthy. She was some dog, that dog. She done a face plant on every beach. This is 2015. And that's the central coast on the west coast.
So we had a run of starfish back to that first closest point, not the furthest one. And there's a few mussels up high. That big brownie swelly. He wants me really bad to go in there. That ground swell does. I don't think there's anywhere that we can put you ashore though, Terry. But they're still running along though. No, there's still purple starfish here. There's one species and a couple of another one. Some babies. He's melting in there. That baby is melting. And there's some wet green seen in this is obviously throughout the whole coastline, same thing. But that's the most starfish I've seen altogether. You put all the starfish we've seen in 9 months. There's more here in that little tiny 100-foot spot.
And so there should be 78 species of starfish. Each species is multiple brilliant colors. Very highly visible species. There's like an 18-foot tide exchange here. And it should be around 76 species of sea anemones. And they can 2 or 3 feet, and then they bloom too, right? So they're very visible and multiple colors for each species. 74 species of sponges, and they take up large real estate on these rocks. There would be 700 algae, and in those 700 algae kelps, there will be 6,500 invertebrates without the backbones, like little shrimps that they have identified, certainly thousands or more. There would be football fields of red urchins and green sea urchins, purple sea urchins. There would be all kinds of whelks and snails and mollusks and clams. Just an incredible diversity. I'll actually show you that documentary coming up after. And so this is 2017. I'm fueling up, and I have a lot of tanks. I was packing 1,100 liters along the coastline so I can go out into the middle of nowhere for extended periods. And so Zoe's favorite routine is to jump ashore, and she never leaves my side, of course. And so this is Graham Island, Cape St. James is down here. This is Haida Gwaii, formerly known as the Queen Charlotte Islands in British Columbia. It's very close to Alaska. Now, at Cape Scott, which is the top of Vancouver Island, I had to sit it out for about 8 hours to wait for the weather to come down. And there was a humpback whale. You can see all of his backbone in these pictures. He's emaciated. And he's feeding on these little tiny fish in very, very shallow water, very close to the shoreline there. And he was with me the whole time. He stayed there, or she, whatever, stayed there for about 8 hours while I was waiting for the wind to come down, the tide to change. Then I was going to run out around Cape Scott. This is the west coast, tip of west coast, the north coast, north part of Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada. And because that year I was doing all open ocean coastlines. And so there's all kinds of fjords and inlets and islands to hide too, but not always, right? As you'll see coming up, I got caught in a place in a storm, and I had to tie on the boat. Every corner of the boat had to be tied on the land so I didn't get torn off, washed up on the rocks. And we had a bear actually try to catch us. And I got a video of that coming up. Maybe. That's an otter eating. And that's a little community on the west coast here.
Getting gnarly.
I got
29th Saturday.
I got caught in a bad place here. I couldn't get out of there. And it howled in the dark big time.
Might have to move out of here. Yeah, we got nowhere to go. And I'm running another beach line when the wind drops down, just in case. The wind keeps changing. It comes in circles around. We're getting hammered from all sides. We got one beach line up. We got the big anchor out. I'll run another anchor out over here, and I'll put a beach line up over there. It'll be quite a mess when we try to get out of here, but yeah, she's coming right in here now. Big water sprouts flying down through here too. Huge ones. Oh well. We got a anchor line going off the stern. We got a beach line going into that tree. Sorry, Zoe. You're a good dog, Zoe. Probably should open that up first. Oh. We got an anchor or a beach line to that tree. And a beach line, you guessed it, to that tree. You think that's overkill? I don't think so. If you had been here for the last 24 hours, you would have said, Dana, you should have put a line there and a line there and another one there. Because that was hellish. But, well, it's 7:15 almost. It's low tide, but it's pouring rain out there. You can't get any pictures. It's actually slacked off a little bit here right now. But it keeps coming back every time I go to get ready, so I'll have to sit this one out again today, I guess. Zoe's already sitting it out. I'm gonna watch a few lectures, I guess, or something. Zodiac's filling up with water. It's hardcore rain. You know? Hardcore rain. But anyway, we're tied onto that tree. I don't know if you can see it. Tied onto that tree. And we got the big friggin' anchor we moved last night. It got too windy. We moved inside. There's nowhere else to hide in there, only these two little nooks. But it looks like the waves have dropped down out there, so maybe noon or something. And it should slow down, and maybe to catch tonight's tide, or tomorrow morning we'll stay and catch it. Got enough food for another couple of days, but we're a long way from anywhere to get food, so we'll see. Hey Zoe, you find something, buddy? Hey, hey, hey. How you doing? You okay? Let's get you on camera here, swear. Good morning, Zoe. Good morning, Zoe. Oh, I got a seagull in there. Oh, yeah. Tried to take a picture, but that didn't work. There's nothing on the shoreline here, just kelp weed. That was it. No kelp cabbage. Well, actually, I think it was kelp cabbage way into that beach, but oh well, later. September the 2nd, I think. It's Wednesday, 2015. There was a bear. It's over there. And I got some pictures of him in here. But he's gone into the woods. He swam over. And this little island here, he was, like I say, he was on that shoreline over there. And then he swam across to here. And so I'm worried about him. Because I got a beach line. I'm pretty close to that shore. We're heading back north. We're just 15 miles or so to Zabalas. And I don't trust the little bear. He's not looking very thick fur or nothing, and he's been foraging, but I don't see him stopping eating anything. He's moving all the time. And he swam all the way out here, so you never know. There he is going across that little river. He just swam across.
Yeah, he showed up. Me and Zoe went in and put up a beach line. And when we got halfway back to the boat, Zoe started barking. I turned around and he was sniffing the beach line. He had swam out and ran all the way out and almost caught us doing the beach line. So we had just pulled in. I didn't see him swim across, but when you look at the pictures and zoom in, he's soaking wet. And then he left shortly after, and he swam back across because that's an island I'm tied onto, and that's a little bay. So that was the winter. We were out looking for little birds. I was out looking for birds in the winter. We didn't find any birds this winter.
Just another day in hell.
There was some in the community, but none out in the wild.
It shouldn't be zoomed in.
And we made
I got the 50mm on without auto tracking.
I made a lot of trips.
Because the last time we had the auto tracking, right?
Made a lot of trips. We got to get back out there this winter. We need a real skidoo. That's a 20-year-old skidoo. This was last year, and the Argo was sabotaged 750 kilometers away from home. I was out in the middle of nowhere at a high altitude. And we actually took the motor out, sent the motor back to the manufacturer, and they said it was sabotaged and the warranty wouldn't cover it. So that's currently sitting with no engine. That cost $1,600 to ship it up and get it back. And he sent it back in pieces in a box. I'm still angry every time I look at the Zodiac or the Argo. I'm still super angry what was done to me and how they treated us. It was hideous. But last year with the Argo, we checked 400 ponds, not a single bird. We never seen any flocks of birds. We never seen any fish jumping. Fukushima is an extinction event. So when you're checking hundreds of ponds, you can't see a single fish jump. I mean, last year was super important. I don't know if people appreciate how important that expedition actually was. But that set the stage for this year, right? But we never got to finish the whole province. We broke down. And whenever it broke down, this thing only got 1,800 kilometers on it. This is a $25,000 machine in 2017. Right? We got it with 1,100 kilometers on it. And it's got every bell and whistle you can imagine, except for an engine that was sabotaged. It's just, we can't afford to put a new engine into it, right? You're looking at $5,000 to put a new engine into it, $6,000. And if I go near Argo, I'm probably going to burn it down, you know? This is 2018. Going down the Queen Charlotte's again, the Heideggard. I won't play very much of that. Self-explanatory. Just give you a little insight is what I'm trying to do tonight. So I'm headed down the east side, or the west side, east side of Haida up by Alaska. I'm probably 50, 60, 70 miles from Alaska. So we end up in this place in the middle of nowhere, and I can't get the forecast where I'm to on the VHF radio. I'm towing the Zodiac behind me because we're going to set up shop probably 20 miles down the coastline. And it's a tough coastline. That's the Pacific Ocean. But anyway, 2 nights later, I washed up in the rocks in a hurricane.
Drag anchor up on the rocks, just woke up. It's gonna be a rough one.
Let me play that one more time on the big screen.
Drag anchor up on the rocks, just woke up. It's gonna be a rough one.
And so that's the GPS of where I was to. And those tracks are because I had lost the anchors. I dragged 2 anchors up on the rocks. I didn't know we were going to get a hurricane that night. I was beat out from, I had done 2 tides that day.
Well, it's daylight. I don't know if you can see. That was the battle. No anchors. All my anchors right there off that point in the sunlight right there. Flipped the Zodiac over, so the engine went underwater. I got the Zodiac up on the roof. It was a big struggle. I'm drifting back and forth in Bag Harbor. It's April the 28th. I've been at this since 3 o'clock in the morning. Got everything sorted away, and we're just going to get my anchors back and wait for the high tide in 2 hours to shoot through.
Sorry. And so I'm driving around with no anchor till daylight is basically what I was talking about. That's the tracks I left, and it was still blowing heavy, but I was tucked away there. You can see the damage I'd done to the prop. So I wrecked the prop, obviously, trying to get off the rocks, 3 a.m. in the morning. This was heading back over to the mainland. I got caught in bad weather.
Okay, Zoe, we're going to make a turn here. We're going to make a turn in a minute. It'll be a lot better. Gotta get far enough up that rock. We're right down when I turn, I don't drift into it. Holy frig. Washing machine. I got a low speed, but gotta keep the bow up. Gotta keep the bow up. Little kick kicker's broke loose again. Yeah. Another 10 miles, I'll deal with it. There you are, you little bastard. That's chaos. That's Banks Island over here.
Yeah, I was racing the weather, and the little kicker got loose and done quite a bit of damage and buckled up the gear shift. That broke off last week on me, actually. And I can still push it and pull it in out of gear, but it's got to get replaced at some point. We got too many expenses. We can't keep up with anything anymore. So for British Columbia, we've done the entire coastline all the way to Alaska year after year after year. Year after year after year. And as you already seen, sailboats.
Oh, we got the big one up.
Sailboats included. So the 2 Zodiacs and the sailboat for the last couple of years we were up there. And then we also have an underwater drone. I'll be taking that with me again this trip. And I'm shooting that with a drone. I got the drone control around my neck. And I shouldn't let it swing, right? And then the other control. It's utter chaos trying to do what I'm doing. And ultimately, now the drone is really handy for looking at fish in the river. This is actually in the town where I'm to, this particular footage, where I was living. And you can see the salmon coming up. See the salmon? So I knew there was salmon coming up because they count them right there at that gate. And so a friend of mine said there was salmon down there, so I wanted to go down there and actually get the footage anyway. So we go all over the coastline, year after year after year.
Oh, we got the big one up.
Counts. And you can fill the beach up with people. By the way, everybody there is me. And I'm just trying to tell the story, right? You can fill the beach up with people, and you're not going to find the species to your left. Japan's radioactive fallout has actually wiped it out. So you see the species to the left are highly visible species to your left at low tide. And to the right, that's the same place as the pictures to the left. They're permanently exterminated. They never came back. We went out there year after year. This is low tide. We're right by Alaska in this particular video. This is low tide. This is the last group of islands in Canada before you cross over. We're about 10 kilometers from Alaska. You can see how low the tide is. And you can see the rocks are actually naked. So it can't be like that and be species in Alaska. So Alaska is wiped out also. Because you can't have one place with species and far away, 10 kilometers away, have lots of species. Because I've done the whole coastline year after year. But what, like when you see the species to the left, and then to the right, you see me in the same place as after. That should shock you. That should horrify you. That should terrify you. That should mortify you that there's no species to the left or to the right. And you can see the different variety of species. 7,500 highly visible species are permanently exterminated due to the radioactive fallout from Japan. And so this is why I've done multiple research expeditions to Alaska. We were looking for oases, like to the left. And so the radioactive fallout, that's Japan. I always hated this particular map because it's stupid. And so then it comes in, but I'm supposed to come out over here, right? So this is the Pacific Ocean. That's the Atlantic Ocean. This is where I'm to in those last videos, right up where my finger is to now, right up by Alaska. And you can see the radioactive fallout. And this is the Atlantic. This is where I'm currently to on the East Coast doing research. And we're seeing the same thing, a total extinction event. No, what have I got done there? Bear with me. I'm just farting around. Because I can do all kinds of things with this, right? So I can change sides in real time. I can make myself smaller or bigger in real time, obviously. I can flip myself. So the software that I'm using is, it's called a TriCaster. And it's extremely complicated and expensive. Let me just fix this here. And on top of that, I'm leaning in the chair. So if the chair is leaning, then I'm got it screwed up. Let me just fix that right quick so I'm sitting up straight. Chest in, chest out, stomach in, chin up, back straight, breathing in the nose, out the mouth, blah, 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 blah. So the radioactive, what have I got done here? The radioactive fallout covering the northern hemisphere. Now the model stops here, but the radiation doesn't. And so the species are permanently wiped out. What have I got done here? I got myself spun around, do I? Hang on, I'll get to it. I'm gone. Apologize. There we go. That's what I was trying to get done. Whatever. Okay, let's keep going there. So the species to your left are permanently now extinct. They never came back. Deteriorating Fukushima nuclear meltdowns threaten mass extinction around the world, and it does that by radioactive fallout. So Japan, the Mr. Nuclear Fury from Japan just called me, and he actually called me from his number. I'm going to give it to you right now. I turned the phone off just because I didn't want him interrupting us. But I'm going to give you that number just in case. He's been stalking me for several years. He's threatened to rape me. I'm going to give you his number so people got his number. They can, if something happens to me, him and his cronies should be investigated first and foremost. He's a despicable piece of shit. So the number is now +61 400 221 112. I think that's an Australian number, isn't it? Now his other numbers he used to call me for was Chicago in the United States. But for the last while it's been a private number and you can't block it because it's a private number. So +61 400 221 and then 112. They're broken up into those, they're compartmentalized. Okay, let's keep going here. So British Columbia is extinct. We're on the east coast of Canada, that's the west coast. It's a total extinction event. They're permanently gone. There's nothing left. Just a couple of algae, but there should be 700 algae. So that's an extinction event, see? That's an extinction event. Let me just give you some headlines about Fukushima before we call it. Can I make the Geiger counter bigger? How big do you want it? That big enough? There's nothing I can't do with the equipment I got, except for make me look pretty. I can't manage to do that for some reason. Lord knows I've tried. I don't like the big Geiger counter. I guess you're using a small screen, are you? It takes up too much real estate, right? So 334, man. Wow. No way. 343 counts per minute. My God. They've contaminated my home. France says Japan has lost control and French should leave the country. Not Tokyo, but the country. And you're eating food from there. Swiss embassy evacuates Tokyo fearing radiation. Fukushima is uncertain. So France bailed. Switzerland bailed. Korea calls the handling of Fukushima incompetent. EU calls it an apocalyptic event. Tokyo has lost all control, says energy officials. Hong Kong says Fukushima is a global threat. Former official in Fukushima, it's a disaster of all of humanity, the entire world. Nuclear report warns of apocalyptic scenario at Fukushima. This could one day be considered the start of the ultimate catastrophe of the world and the planet. Scientists, the slower you spread radiation dose, the more effective produces cancers and inherited defects. There's 1,800 illnesses and diseases. Japan is going the very best way of destroying the human race. Local official, they found plutonium in every sample. And this radiation-absorbing bacterium they're talking about on paved surfaces, the numbers for that are typically 10 to 20 million becquerels, atomic decays, per kilogram. These are staggering numbers. Deteriorating plant threatens mass extinction. So that's what we're researching. We're actually researching an extinction event. There should be 100 people minimum doing what I'm doing, but there's not. And apparently I'm a bad person for doing what I'm doing. Nuclear engineer, I agree, Fukushima could be an extinction event. It's a myth that the disaster is being contained. Nuclear expert, radioactive materials have contaminated much of the Pacific and the coast of North America, and a negative impact of the accident has spread throughout the world. It's called radioactive fallout. Experts agree species of wildlife and fisheries are endangered globally. Not just to the releases in the ocean, because I showed you the airborne plumes. The airborne plumes covered the continent, or the northern hemisphere, I think it was about 8 days. Let's say 10 days. Let's say 12 days. But it's no more than 12 days. It covered the entire northern hemisphere. Oh, it's Nuke Fury. You have to stop calling me. We're getting worried that you're a creep and a crazy lunatic. And now I'm going to have to block you because can't have creepy lunatic people harassing me. Experts agree many species of wildlife and fisheries are endangered globally. 220 million atoms per liter covering the northern hemisphere. Wrap your mind around that. Imagine you got to try to count that per liter. Per liter. So when they do the atomic count, you're getting 220 million counts per minute of iodine-129 in the liter. These are absurd numbers. You can't have that without absurd amount of curium fission products, uranium, plutonium, americium, neptunium, strontium, technetium, californium. Human civilization may destroy itself. I mean, look at Fukushima, the liquefaction of 3 nuclear reactor cores. It's not just 3 nuclear reactor cores, it's 4 fuel pools with decades of reactor cores. But it was 3 active running, because everybody's avoid talking about the fuel pool. And in fact, they're trying to convince you they got the fuel out of a pool in a building that don't even exist. And it's outrageous. They should be ashamed of themselves for doing this. They should be arrested and jailed for life for doing that. Same as the despicable coward that keeps interrupting us during our shows here. Nobel Prize winner in NHK, the only way to preserve human life is to completely turn away from nuclear power. Even this year, there was a story, a time of reckoning for social media. They actually talk about nuclear power has the risk of destroying the planet. Try wrapping your mind around that. There's only one way, only one spot they would have picked up that documentation and to make that assertion is watching my videos. It's the only way, because there's nobody else out there trying to inform the population. Major U.S. paper, time to quit the nuclear power altogether, threatens the very existence of human civilization. You can't do that without threatening all the species at the same time. Or even first. We're way up the food chain, right? Tokyo legal expert once said nuclear accident occurs, everything is over. Zero prospects of ever restoring the fishing grounds. And after years and years of going to Alaska for 4 or 5 months at a time, the species didn't come back. We kept hoping that the species would start repopulating the coastline, which is, see, the ocean is a soup of life. So a glass of salt water would have 1 billion creatures. And 75 to 100 million of them are phytoplankton, the basis of the food chain, the oxygen chain, carbon sequestering chain. But the other 900 million creatures is the eggs and larvae and small fries of mussels and starfish and, you know, the zooplankton, all different species, right? Like if you took 5 gallons of the ocean before Fukushima happened and went to another planet, you can populate with the same attributes as Earth. You could actually populate that ocean with the soup of life that was the Pacific or the Atlantic Ocean. But what happened was we sterilized the ocean. So one of the weird things we started noticing was the ocean, you were able to see very, very far, which was not normal, particularly during spawning season when it should be just a milky ocean. The ocean was crystal clear. But we've seen that year after year in all parts of the year, not just the spawning season. Nuclear power generation is the only invention that may destroy the future of humans. Yeah. I only serve one king. Now, you said you donated there last week, I think. Did you donate at my site or PayPal? And what initials would I be looking for to verify that your donation showed up? Because I can't verify that you donated last week. I know you asked me, right? Leading director in Japan, but I've never had an issue. And I'm just not sure, and I lost track of that, and I should have followed up on it sooner. I apologize. Nuclear power generation, the only invention that may destroy the futures of human beings. And Japan professor, 1,000 years from now, contaminated water from Fukushima may still be entering the Pacific Ocean. May still be entering the Pacific Ocean. Still entering the Pacific Ocean. What do you mean by that? Because they got you believing that the tanks are full of the water and that the water hasn't entered the ocean. I showed you the plume covered the ocean. But let me just explain the tanks to you quickly, because this is not a long show tonight. I've been packing all day, and I'm busted up, actually. I got really sick there around 6 p.m., and I was throwing up for about 20 minutes. Feel better now, but I'm not back to normal or anything like that. And that caught me out. I wasn't expecting that. That caught me off guard. And I don't know what the catalyst was that. Like, I work hard every day anyway, right? So packing and organizing, getting ready to head back out on the expedition shouldn't have been a catalyst for me getting sick. But just let me explain the tank fable to you. Because they actually... I'll just do a quick one for you. So in 2013, they had 1,000 tanks. In 2014, they had 1,200 tanks. So 2013, 1,000 tanks. 2014, 1,200 tanks. 2017, they had 900 tanks. So 2013, 1,000 tanks. 2014, 1,200 tanks. 2017, 900 tanks. 2019, and you can see that line where my finger is to over there, 1,000 tanks. And 2021, 1,000 tanks. So 2013, they had 1,000 tanks. 2021, they had 1,000 tanks. Do you get what's going on there? But let me just show you about the ALP system and the Riva water filtration system. Because that's how they tricked you and manipulated you, right? They convinced you that they were filtering water. They can't filter water. I'll show you. This is incontestable. This is unassailable documentation. This is TEPCO. Okay. TEPCO, the Riva system, 2014, August the 12th, 2014. The man-made event happened March 11, 2011. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. For the last 3 years, the system has been unused and kept out of operation. And what happened was, when you try to filter 2 sieverts per liter, actually 2.2 sieverts of just beta, that's all they're emitting to beta, as if gamma and alpha and neutrons don't exist. We're talking about a nuclear meltdown, for goodness sakes, and pouring water over a reactor core that's melted down. You don't come out at 2 sieverts a liter, you come out at a dozen sieverts per liter. Let's just say it's 2 sieverts a liter, because that's the numbers we got to work with. One of the problems will be dismantling, disposing of the system that's become contaminated. So as you're running 2 sieverts a liter through a filter of the system, if you just do that for 5 minutes, the system is so radioactive you can't get near it. This is actually common sense. But they've done that to trick you and manipulate you, and the tanks are actually empty. Because if the tanks are full at 2.2 sieverts per liter, which is actually 12 sieverts per liter, but let's say it's 2 sieverts per liter, 4 sieverts is a lethal dose. The tanks are millions of sieverts. The tanks are not thick enough to shield you from 2 sieverts, let alone millions of sieverts. So you can't actually build another tank within a football field of a tank. And if you've seen pictures, what you see is all the tanks are jammed together. That's simply not possible, because we're talking fuel contaminated water, water that's contaminated with actual nuclear fuel. Let me get something for you to try to articulate that a bit better. See, the problem with this story is it takes about 6 to 8 hours to walk you through the majority of the facets of the story, but you're just briefly an introduction, not actually detail like I'm doing with this part here. That's how difficult this story actually is, see? Here you go. So at 2.2 sieverts an hour of beta radiation, you can't build another tank alongside of it. Not only that, you can't walk past the hoses. You can't walk past the tanks. You can't get near a tank to build another tank alongside of it. The tanks are simply built to trick you, manipulate you, and deceive you into thinking they didn't contaminate the Pacific Ocean. So the idea is, don't talk about airborne radioactive fallout, only talk about ocean. So airborne, we covered the planet and fission products. Within 2 weeks, the whole continent. Within 4 weeks, the entire southern hemisphere, the entire planet, was buried under radioactive fallout. And let me give you an example of that right quick. So you don't need it going into the ocean because it covers the continents, it covers the ocean. The oceans are saturated from the surface to the ocean floor with fission products, pulsing energy every second. That's actually climate change. And so climate change, coal, oil, and gas emissions don't pulse energy every second. Radiation does. And it does it for millions of years. So the ERIVA system was kept out of operations all the way up until August the 12th, 2014. And it's the same with the Orano system, which is France also, right? The Riva is France, and so is the Orano system. Both of those systems weren't operable, and they couldn't dismantle it. It's become so contaminated, the workers couldn't even get close to it. And so they watered down the actual implications by saying the radiation levels measured in the system posed a risk to workers during the operation maintenance. There was no operations, as I just showed you, it was kept out of operation. There was no maintenance because it's lethal doses. This is how radiation actually works, right? Same as radioactive fallout. Don't look at that, look at the tanks. See, that's what they want you to do. Don't look at the fact the tanks are 2.2 sieverts per liter. Per liter. So if there was a gallon somewhere in this building when I started the show, I would have died before I got this far into the show. So imagine a million tons. Imagine just one of these tanks full. The tanks are not thick enough to shield you from 2 sieverts a single liter, and they're not thick enough to shield you from millions of sieverts. So if a gallon is a lethal dose from far away in a short period of time, 5 gallons is lethal just walking past it. If you took 5 gallons of this type of water and put it at the subway, everybody walks past it will die that day. You can take it to another city, kill everybody in that city. You take it to another city, the same jerry can, 5 gallons. So the filtration system becomes so radioactive immediately. If you disconnect it and only put fresh water through it, the fresh water coming out the other side will be tens of sieverts an hour per liter. Forever. Because that's how it works in real science. That's actually how it actually works. See? Okay. Thanks for the memories. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to finish packing to head back out on the expedition. We're getting rain tomorrow, and just in case that don't happen, I'll be up early and I like to take off, right? And we're hoping to get 4 or 5 days in. We might get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 days in, depending on the weather. And I was out on couple of weeks ago, I was 450 kilometers, almost 500 kilometers away from home on the expedition, and they had taken down my YouTube site with 24,000 subscribers. And so now we're at 240 subscribers here on this channel. I never gained a single subscriber all in the last 2 days. I can't download my videos for 12 hours. My videos don't move for hours and hours and hours and hours. We still got to do the work. Even if nobody watches this, I still got to do this. I still got to try, right? And I got to do that every day for the rest of my life. I got to do the best I can to tell this story in the hopes that the world comes to its senses and tries to come up with solutions. For the sake of whatever species is left and the future of the human population, we're left with no choice, but I'm left with no choice but to do everything I can to try to invoke facts and truth instead of deception and misrepresentation and deceit from the industry. I have to try to counter that. And then it's very difficult to keep my operation operational because it costs a lot of money. Things break all the time. A lot of my equipment is old, and it takes a lot, right, to make this operation tick. It really does. And it eats my pension every month for as long as I can remember. It eats it. It gobbles it every single month. I never have nothing for myself ever. And that's just, I'm grateful that I get this opportunity to be the arbiter of facts, because telling the truth is actually easy. That's the easy part. Keeping everything running is a nightmare. That comes with the territory. But telling the truth is easy. It's not confusing because it's the truth, right? You get where I'm coming from, obviously. And so bless all of you. Hugs for all of you. Let's give it a quick shout out to anybody we can see visibly in the comment sections tonight. I'm looking forward just to coming to a stop tonight. It's been such a tough day. The first day is always the hardest when you're packing for an expedition. You got to make a big list, and you got to double check the list. You got to triple check the list. You're always adding stuff onto the list. You're always taking stuff off the list. You're getting it out there. I don't know. My fingers crossed that nothing goes wrong, because we're not in the ability to counter it if something goes wrong, right? So we're going to head back out on this particular expedition. When the weather is too bad for that kind of expedition, we're going to launch the boat. We got equipment that the boat needs coming in on order, and repair the motor, get it up to cruising speed. It still works fine, but it doesn't go full speed because of a sensor. So we finally have that ordered. That'll be here, hopefully, the earliest was the end of the month. That would be fantastic. And we can get back out on the ocean for September. And we only found 5 species of birds out on the ocean, when there should be over 400 species. And we're in the biggest migratory place on the planet, period, bar nothing. 45 million migratory birds are supposed to come through here every year. There's still supposed to be 6.6 million storm petrels at Baccaloo. We went out there 4 times last year in the dark because they're nocturnal, and we didn't find them. So good night, everybody. Let me give a quick shout out. Dana Nasana, good night. Colette S, good night. It's good to see you again. And Andrew B, which is CFINSTR. Good night, Andrew. Glad you found me. I will only serve one king. Went to my site as Lori M. I'll check. Yeah, I seen that, dear. Thank you, Lori. Yeah, well, US dollars is, I get a lot more money because Canadian dollars are pitiful. for I only serve one king. But yeah, I seen Laurie M. Yeah, I remember you now. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure, Laurie, because I seen you mention it, but I wasn't, for some reason I couldn't connect the name. So that's good news. Steve Edwards. Yeah, I made the Geiger counter bigger, then I made it smaller. Maybe I'll make it a bit bigger for you from now on if you're having problems seeing it. Sandra Churchill, good night. Colette says it's the same in California. The tide pools are 95% gone. Wow. I know Yoshi Shimatsu had also went down there. And Kevin Blanch, of course. Yoshi had done some great research down there. He was freaked out by it. Good night, James Lucid, Conrad, and then everybody that's watching this in the background. Danny San. Everybody watching this tonight, tomorrow night, while I'm gone. It's just a little taste of some of the other expeditions that I've done. It's just a tiny, itty bitty fraction of the expeditions that we have done because of Fukushima. But like every expedition is full of just madness, and sadly, no species. Dana Nasana says he saw a flock of about 12 ducks the other day. But it should be millions down there, yeah. Like, if they're in the city, I don't count them because that's the point of the expeditions, go out in Mother Nature, right? If you don't find them in Mother Nature, because the ones that are in the communities, they're residential birds. We got a flock of ducks up here where the sewage comes out. And they're always diving, eating the peanuts out of the sewage, so to speak. Ew. Anyway, for everybody watching this later, we got 23 thumbs up. Wow. We're rocking it tonight. 22 people on the show. Holy shit. Woohoo! That's kind of too many. I get nervous with that many people watching it. Yeah, good night, everybody. Hugs for everybody. God bless everybody. I can't stream live from my cell phone until I get 1,000 subscribers. So I'll shoot the video with the gimbal, which is better anyway, because live is broken, right? You're out in the woods. I have a booster for the cell phone single. It's still crappy. So it's kind of better anyway to shoot the video and then post it. It takes me about 4 hours to upload a 10-minute video with my cell phone as a medium. Anyway, I actually enjoyed that show tonight because it's departure from the mass documentation and information. It's something hopefully people can relate to. Sadly, it's not a good topic because I showed you an extinction event over many years where the species never came back. Robert, good night, Robert. Hugs for everybody. Don't forget, folks, if you can donate $10 or so, there's links in the description. I got to buy another jerry can because we lost a jerry can. And I got to fill it up. So we got 2 jerry cans to fill up. And we got to fill up the tank. And the truck just to get to ground zero and take off. It's not cheap, right? And we don't have very much. So everything helps. And particularly in 3 or 4 or 5 days, when I start running out of gas and food and everything else, we need money to show up. Otherwise, we're forced to return, right? But I'll do the best I can. Hugs for everybody. Have a great night. Great day tomorrow. And we'll see you from ground zero. I'll be posting regularly from ground zero. Take care, folks. Have a great night.